Good evening, folks. Thanks very much for coming in. You're all welcome. We hope you're all safe and sound wherever you are. Tonight we have the pleasure of having Mr. Michael Brown, executive producer of the American TV series Haunted State, in with us. Good evening, Michael. Thanks very much for coming in, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing fine. We're surviving, considering the sort of circumstances we're getting by. So, you're the executive producer of Haunted State. You're also the lead investigator.
Right.
Can you tell us just a wee bit about your background, how you kind of started out in the paranormal?
Yeah, absolutely. I started doing this in 2012, 2011, somewhere in there. And we'd started out with 2 movies. And the movies didn't quite get where we wanted to get with telling the type of story we wanted to tell. So that's why we came up with a documentary series where it's an 8-part documentary series. And we started just kind of filming around the places we lived. And then we started to get attention of people, and we started to get credibility. And then that led to us getting access to larger locations. And then, so it took a good 5 years of kind of kicking the tires, if you will, to figure out what we wanted to do with the TV show. And now here we are. So
obviously your TV background, your filmmaking goes way back in 2014, I think it was, with Whispers from History Past.
Yep.
You done that. But I think the biggest thing you've done is your Haunted State.
Yeah, I've got Haunted State is the biggest thing I've done. There's also a film I have, because we produce other films for my company, Hungry Lion Productions. And I actually have a documentary about roller derby, women's roller derby, that did really well here in America. But yeah, it's I'm really proud of this series. It took a long time to produce because there's only 4 of us, and there's only 2 of us producing the show. I mean, we're not a giant corporation. Obviously, we're working with Amazon Prime to get distribution, but all in-house, it's a really small operation. So to have everything come together the way that it did, I was really, really proud of it, because a lot of the paranormal shows, and I'm not knocking them, but I'm just saying for my taste, I want something that has a little bit of science, a little bit of fun, and then obviously your scary moments as well. But I kind of wanted to have all 3, and that's what we do with Haunted State.
Mm-hmm. Just say hi, Nicole, Jillian, Andy's here as well. Thanks very much for coming in, folks. Because you use, I might get his second name wrong here, so if I do, then I apologise. Lloyd Ortbach, I don't know if I'm saying that right or not. You use him quite a wee bit during the series for advice, not for advice, for his opinion. He's a parapsychologist or something.
Yeah, Lloyd Auerbach. Yeah, Lloyd Auerbach. Yeah, he is a parapsychologist. We say he's like, if you saw the movie Ghostbusters from the 80s, he's like a real life Egon. Like, that's what he does for a living. He's a parapsychologist. So, I mean, he is scientific. Has credibility. And that's really the important part for us to bring someone like that in is, you have a lot of paranormal teams that are intelligent enough to make their own conclusions on what they find. But having that science angle, I think, is really fun, too, because obviously we want to believe. A lot of us that watch these shows specifically, we want to believe. But I also have no problem questioning some of the stuff that we get. And that's really where Lloyd comes in, and he really helps out. We'll show him our footage, and then, it's through Skype, because he's so far away. He's in San Francisco. We're in the Milwaukee, Chicago area. So that's, long way to travel. Yeah. Very long way. Yeah.
Right. But I think that's good that you've got, that different kind of opinion to work with. I mean, you did say, in the episode, I think it was in Distillery, you're a filmmaker and you film what you get, and and you don't claim for it to be paranormal. You let people make up their own mind.
Yeah, that's what the show is all about. Is we film it, we produce it. I mean, obviously, I have my opinion, but that doesn't bleed into the show. People can decide what they want to decide, and that's why I like our show. Is we're not over the top, we're not dramatic, we're not drama queens about when stuff starts to happen. We stay chill, we're calm, And it's basically I'm making the type of show that I would want to watch. That's kind of how we came to the format of the show.
It is a good format, as you say. There's a lot of ghost shows. I'm not going to mention any, but there is a lot of ghost shows out there that are really serious, and as soon as they hear a noise, I've said this in many lives, as soon as they hear a noise, that's paranormal.
Absolutely. No, you're right. And we wanted to cover this as like kind of investigative journalists versus ghost hunters, right? We wanted to come with it as a kind of a check and a balance, right? When we have something happen, we try to rule out, certain things. And there have been times you've seen, if you've watched the show, there have been times where we debunk things. Like there's one episode, I think it's episode 7, where we have an ice machine that goes off. It keeps going off and it scares the crap out of us, but it's not paranormal. It's just a really loud ice machine, so stuff like that.
Well, see, I find that important as well. And I think it gives a lot of credibility to a show or to a team if one of the biggest objectives is debunking first.
I agree. I totally agree with you. Yep.
I think it's very, very important to debunk. But at the same time, I've watched, just whatever episodes you've done. Well, just about. I have watched every episode you've done. And you are a good team. You are laid back. You put fun into it. In a way that you're not mocking the paranormal. You're not mocking, but you put a kind of fun side into it that makes it more enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that really is the heart and soul of our show is that human connection that we have. Like, and the story we have with Angela, where she loses her father, and we talk about all the people that we lost. And I think, and we connect that whole story throughout the season. And then the final episode, obviously, we come to a conclusion on all of that. And I think that is the thing that makes our show a little different than the other paranormal shows, is because it's human. We're all going to lose someone we love. We're all going to experience what that is like. And I think bringing that human element into the show is really what sets us apart. The one thing, though, that kind of makes me laugh, though, is, and I don't know, because you guys are overseas. I think you're on Amazon, but it's not the same as American Amazon. Some of the reviews we've gotten are just it's so funny how people will watch like 10 minutes of an episode. They'll be like, "Oh, this show is crap. We hate the show," and they don't give it a chance. Like, you need to watch at least 2 episodes. Because I'll tell you a fun fact. So, is Breaking Bad, was that a popular show in the UK back in the?
For some people, yeah.
Yeah, because it was a huge show here. So I would watch Breaking Bad, and I'd hear all these people talking about how great it was, and I watched like 10 minutes of one episode, and I thought it was stupid. And then I kept hearing people talk about it, and I gave it another chance, and then I was addicted, and I started binging it. And I feel like that's kind of how our show. It does start a little slow, but it's not only is it the season premiere, but it's the series premiere. So you have to kind of get to know the characters. So the first 2 episodes, we go to Washington Island, which is a island in like Lake Michigan here, where I live in Wisconsin, Door County. And there's a lot of folklore. So we use those first 2 episodes to kind of get our feet wet. And then the real story begins at the end of episode 2, when we kind of talk about our losses, losing loved ones.
Mm-hmm. Gillian Daniels, there's so many that are scripted, and that's true, there is. But the thing I like about your show is it doesn't seem to be. I mean, obviously you probably have some kind of format to stick to, but it seems to just kind of roll off the cuff, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. We also wanted the show to be like, you're there with us. This is what's happening. You're there with us. I mean, obviously, we edit out all the slow parts where nothing is happening, because that wouldn't be any fun to watch. So it's obviously you kind of get the greatest hits, basically, from the moments that happen when we're filming.
Mm-hmm. The episode we talk about Angela, obviously I'm not going to get into details. It's quite personal for her. Concerning her dad,
right?
With the house, what have you, with the. I thought that was quite an ingenious thing, the code word.
Yes, and what's really funny is we're working on a project right now to talk about Harry Houdini and what he did during World War I, and we found out through our research, Harry Houdini did that with his wife, where they had a code word. I don't know where that came from for them. It's just pure coincidence. But yeah, it was ingenious. And she's telling me this while we're there. And I'm like, well, geez, probably should film this, you know? And I had to get her permission because she's very, she doesn't like to have things be about her. She doesn't like the attention on her. But once I explained to her, I'm like, you could help people that are trying to cope with losing a loved one. I'm like, isn't it worth it? And we finally convinced her to allow us, because that's a big ask for someone. You know, they're mourning the loss of their loved one, in her case, her dad. That's a really, really big ask, I think. And but it was for a good cause, so she did it. And if you've watched the show, you see kind of what happens. But for the people that haven't seen it, basically, Angela had a code word with her father before he died. And he was really into the paranormal, like a lot of the viewers of your show here, and probably like the two of you. And not to say I'm not into the paranormal, but he was really, really into it. You name a show, he watched it. So that's you know, what kind of where that came from for him, I think, is he just wanted to see if it was true. And he's actually in our second movie, Theater of Shadows. He appears in it. We actually interview him.
Yeah, just prior to his death. Well, it wasn't long before he passed.
Yeah, right. And he's a good man, really good man. And having but knowing someone, and this is one thing with paranormal investigation that not every investigator or ghost hunter, whatever you want to call yourselves, gets to experience is you hear voices through some of the radio control devices, you know. But when you hear a voice of someone you personally know and you hear their voice, it's a whole different level.
It was, and as when you what we used to be, Angela, she's not one to kind of attention, what have you. But that episode, you could tell by just watching her when she was sitting in the kitchen with yourself.
Oh yeah.
And they were giving up the property, what have you. You could see the emotion and how much it actually meant to her. And I think, it shows a whole different side to presenting a ghost show as well, because it's letting the viewers see that you are human. You have got family, feelings, emotions, and you're not just up there filming, looking for a ghost and bang, that's right, wrap it up, let's go home.
That's exactly right. And that's one thing, literally every human being on this earth, we have that in common. Doesn't matter our background, our race background, our religion background, we're all going to lose someone we love. So we wanted to have a show that could bring people together, and even a show that skeptics could watch, right? You could be skeptical and watch this and know that, and forgive me, but that we're not full of shit. We're trying to tell the story the best way that we can. Obviously, when people don't believe in it, we're not trying to convince them. We're just presenting what we get. But I thought that was something that the show needed a humanization, because a lot of the paranormal shows don't do that. They go out, they try to find, talk to spirits, and they're disrespectful sometimes. They provoke, which I don't have a problem with that if that's what someone else wants to do, but I don't want to run my show that way. We know we're talking to human beings in most cases. We're talking to people, and that human connection still exists, even though they're physically not there. So we treat them with the same respect we treat other people with that are in our daily lives. And I just think everything came together really well. And it's tough when you're doing a show like this. You don't know how it's going to turn out until you're done with it. And I'm really, really happy with the way that it turned out.
Oh, it's turned out amazing. It is. It's a really, really good show. And it is. I've watched a lot of paranormal shows on TV, mainstream TV, Prime. I've lost count of many I've watched. And I'm not just saying this because it's your show, and there's another, a UK one that I'll watch. There's a Canadian one. There's only 3 shows that I will watch. I watch some other ones sometimes for a laugh, because you're watching it and you think, it's so fake, and it's not that you need cheering up, but you want to watch something funny,
Yeah, I don't want to talk crap about any of them, but I agree with you on some of those. I'm not going to name names, but there's some.
No, we don't name names here, But you think, there is one, I'm not going to name it, but you're flicking through the channels, you think, I could do with a laugh, I'll stick, beep beep on and just watch it, and it's really amazing how they get away with it. In the distillery, I know you're a gin fan.
Oh yeah, yeah, I am.
You go meet your friend. She likes her wee.
All right,
before. Pink gin.
Yeah.
What do you think of pink gin?
Oh yeah, no, it's amazing. Yeah, I will try any gin in a heartbeat. I'll try it. I love gin. I love hard liquor to begin with, any of them, but gin's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yep.
But in the distillery, we're getting quite a lot of EVPs, but we're getting quite intelligent responses.
Yeah, I mean that's wow. You know, the thing is, there's a lot of misconceptions that you have as an individual when you go into this field, right? You think, okay, it has to be the middle of the night. It has to be dark in there. No, that opening part, it was it was lunchtime. The lights were on. We weren't even in the dark, and we had all that stuff happening. So I really think it comes down to the energy either of the location or the people in the room. Because like I'd say, so for our team, we've got Todd, Ann, Angela, and myself. Yeah. Angela and Todd are very much alike. They have the same energy, right? They're very they don't like attention. They're very introverted. Where Ann and I are extroverts. We love attention. We love talking to people. We love meeting people. So I think that balance really helps out. But yeah, when we were in the distillery, I couldn't believe. I mean, we asked them, what type of wine do you like? And they said Zin, which is, Zinfandel. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to refute that. When you have, and then the moment, which I won't give away, but there was a moment on the desk with the flashlight with the two girls. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say about that. I don't want to say it was paranormal, but I don't know what else it could be.
Well, that's it. If you say you don't want to say it's paranormal, but if you don't have an explanation for it, then, you say, well, make up your own mind. I can't explain it. It happened. If you're on film.
That's what paranormal is you don't know what it is. It doesn't mean it's, otherworldly. You know what I mean? It just means you don't know what it was, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing when people talk about UFOs. It's an unidentified flying object. It doesn't mean it's an alien aircraft. It means you don't know what the hell it is. And it's kind of the same mindset we use with the show is you make up your own mind. I mean, some of it is, what if I say, what color is my shirt? And you get the answer black. Well, I mean, people still want to try to argue with you. And that's why we don't get caught up in that narrative. We don't get caught up in trying to convince people. And when you read some of the reviews, a lot of that is, oh, the show is fake, blah, 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 blah. Those people are missing the point. That's not what our show is about. If you pay attention, we're not trying to do that. You know what I mean? And that's where just sit back and enjoy it, basically. That's it. It's
serious, but it's fun.
Oh yeah, it's definitely serious, but yeah. I mean, we tease each other. We're like I said, we genuinely love each other, and we're actually coming out with a 9th episode, but it's just kind of like an interview episode where we maybe show some stuff that didn't get to air, or we tell some stories about one of the episodes, and that'll be coming out probably by the end of this month.
To be honest with you, the first time I watched the series, and you went to Cana Island.
That was episode 3, Cana Island, yes.
I actually thought you and Anne were a couple.
You thought me and Anne were?
I did.
No.
And it was when I clicked. The time I clicked was the time with the slide, where we won't talk about.
Oh yeah. No, thing is, Anne is a flirty person, and I'm a flirty person. So I'm a very when I'm around a beautiful woman, I flirt with them, but it doesn't mean anything. That's just my personality. I could see where you would think that. Anne would have a good laugh at that too, because she's like my sister. I don't think of her that way at all, and neither does. Same thing for me, for her to me. You know what I mean? Funny.
That's when I clicked on. It was a slide, but you'd say something, like brother and sister, what have you. I thought they were a couple. I thought they were a couple.
Yeah. No, I mean, see, and that's one thing is Anne is a beautiful woman, but she acts like a dude. She's not dramatic. And no offense, I don't want to get caught up in a battle of the sexes here, but she's not dramatic. She's just she's very blunt, she'll tease you. You can tease her back. She can take it. So, I mean, I really thoroughly enjoy being around here. Thing is, and you probably get this too with your social media. If you have, other members of your team that might be attractive, we get so many guys that are in love with Anne, and it's very fun.
I thought she was quite funny at the lighthouse when she was up. up the top with
Yes. Matter of fact, that moment. So I just had mentioned we're going to do a 9th episode, which is an interview episode. We actually talk about that moment because they were so inappropriate. The stuff they're talking about is so inappropriate that I have to like edit around it so it doesn't make it in the show. But we let the audience know like this is what was happening in that moment because I couldn't air it because it was so like you're like, whoa, what are you talking about? I mean, you'll find out more about that in episode 9. But yeah, they're great. All 3 of them are great. I love them all.
The little bit that was in the show did see that the conversation was going south, basically.
Big time.
You know? And
Big time.
you can see the look in Anne's face. She wasn't upset. She wasn't offended.
No.
You know, she thought it was quite funny.
Yeah, Anne is one of those people in my life. Like I can literally say whatever I want to her. Literally whatever I want. And she's not going to get offended. She'll talk to me. Whereas there's other people, if I say whatever I want, they might be like, why'd you say that to me? So that's why I appreciate the camaraderie that we all have.
You've got a lot of good chemistry.
We do.
Between you. But I mean, there must be times when you bump heads.
No, no, there isn't. I mean, there is. I mean, yeah, but they're far and few between. The one thing that I really love about the team, and they make fun of me more than anyone, to be honest. But when that camera goes on, the level of respect that we have for each other and for what we're trying to do, it's like a switch, you know. And I mean, when we're not filming, they tease me because they know they get into my head sometimes. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, we don't really bump heads. I mean, the thing is, they trust where I'm taking the show as the showrunner and the executive producer. They trust that, and that really means a lot because that's not something that's common. But I mean, as far as bumping heads, there's maybe been 2 moments, and I wouldn't even call it bumping heads. They just maybe wanted to film in one location and in a building while we're there, and I kind of thought, no, let's go film somewhere else. But that's as far as our disagreements go. We don't really have any angst with each other. We're all really good people. We all get along really well. So.
This is another thing, but Anne, with our wine, I know, but when you were in the distillery, they took you to the manufacturing bit where they make the wines, and you saw her eyes lighting up as soon as she walked in.
Yes.
You know,
yeah, she was drooling too.
I was like a baby in a candy, a kid in a candy shop when she walked in. You know, what kind of wine do you want to try? I do. I asked you one of the EVPs back you got was coffee. Yeah. Then you put a bottle onto the bar and asked them to move or knock off. Now, this might sound a silly question, but if you don't ask, you don't find out. Was that a coffee flavored wine or something?
No, it's just coffee. They make coffee there too. They have so just to kind of explain, Door County, Wisconsin is a place where everyone in the region. So if you're in Minnesota, if you're in Illinois, Wisconsin too, obviously, that's kind of a destination vacation area for people. So there's a lot of they sell cherries are big there and cranberries and wines. And so there's a lot of high end, mainly a lot of upper wealthier Chicago suburb people that go there. And so, I mean, there's just a lot of how would you call it? Resorts and stuff like that there. So yeah, so there's all different types of homemade local products that are there, and coffees was just happened to be one of them that they made there. I mean, so the distillery that we went to, the same owners own Shipwreck. So episode 4 is this distillery. Episode 5 is Shipwreck, the building that had the fire. It's the same ownership. So you can kind of see how they have this winery. They have cheeses there, and then they have a restaurant too.
The Shipwreck is quite a building, but as you say, the fire basically just destroyed it.
Yeah, you know what? And I told Angela that when that fire happened, I told her, I said, we need to get in there. When they rebuild, we need to get in there. So the fact that it took a long time, but the fact that we were able to get in there and film was crazy. And then once you watch the episode, you see what happens there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that we're trying to really figure out is it the location? Is it the energy of the location? Is it the people that are there? where does the paranormal energy come from? Like, how does that work? Like, we don't have an answer for that yet, though. But the fact that it was a brand new building,
Yeah.
and there's still activity, I don't know. I don't have an answer.
I was thinking that as well when I was watching it, because obviously, the fire, it started in the second floor, but it just, decimated the place, and then they leveled it basically and started from scratch. And there was still activity. So I thought, maybe the activity is connected to the land or the general area.
Right. That's a reasonable conclusion to come to.
That was. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying I'm correct.
Right.
As you say, a brand new building and there's still activity.
Yeah.
So my only way of thinking it is it's actually the land that it's connected to, because there was meant to be a tunnel there as well, but they never actually found the tunnel. Is that right? The owners never found it.
Yeah, we really, no pun intended, we dug on that one. We did a lot of research on that. And the staff is convinced that there's a tunnel there. They are totally convinced. But we went and looked at blueprints of the city and of the foundation, and we could not find any proof. Not saying it wasn't there, but they literally were able to dig. And we showed a little bit of the demolition of the building, and not a lot, but we showed a little bit of that in the episode. And the crews couldn't find anything. So they were saying one of the gangsters from the 1920s, Al Capone, he kind of made his run like in Chicago and Milwaukee and then through Wisconsin. He had hideouts everywhere, and that was one of his hideouts allegedly, but there's no evidence that proves that. So, and that's the other thing with the show is there are all these folklore stories, and we want to come in as investigative journalists and try to debunk what we can debunk and prove what we can prove, but a lot of times it's somewhere in the middle. So that's why we leave it up to the audience to figure out. We present what we've found, but it's up to the audience to decide what they think.
Exactly. To me, that's the way a ghost show should be. I remember the owner saying that it was a member of staff or a guest was only in there about half an hour, and they came back out and they were saying the amount of stuff that had been happening was unbelievable. But Nicole makes a good point. I mentioned the ground, but she says it could be an item.
Yeah. I mean, it's all on the table. We don't know. And that's one of the things we talked to Lloyd Auerbach, our parapsychologist, is what is causing this. It's a brand new building. People kind of fall into the same mindset, though. It's like, oh, someone died here. Or, like I said earlier, the lights have to be turned off and it has to be nighttime. Like, none of that matters. Really, it doesn't. Like, I really think it's, my opinion would be, it's the energy of the individual. Like, do you have clairvoyant personality, maybe? And I think I do, which it's taken me a long time to get there, though. But I do think I have like an empathy type of thing. If you watch the movies, you can kind of see like everything was always drawn to me, and I wasn't really looking for that, but it just kind of ended that way. But yeah, I mean, I that's why this is so interesting. Is the answers aren't cut and dry; they're not black and white, and that's why I think a lot of people are interested in pursuing this as a hobby, is because they want answers too.
Exactly. So I think you hit the nail right in the head there. There's, I don't think anybody's found. We can all capture, photographs, and we get a good capture of a laser grid. We done an investigation in the house one night. We got a good capture with a laser grid, but everybody is looking for that answer.
I agree, and that's one thing I too want to tell your audience is when we have people send us photos, it's really interesting because we don't really look at photos as evidence unless they're sequential. If you're taking like 60 photos and then maybe one or two of them have something and then the other ones don't, that might be something. But video is really the answer. If you get something on video, that's the answer, I think, because sensors on cameras and even, smartphones, sensors on cameras are so sophisticated now that someone will take a photo of a house and they'll see some sort of glare, and we get that all the time where people are like, "Hey, do you see this in that window?" And I'm like, "Well, is there a before or after photo?" If it's just a single photo, for me, it's really hard to tell. Yeah. I don't see what else is around there. I kind of need to see a 360 of the area for me to tell, So that's one thing I think we try to do in the show, and we haven't done it quite enough. Is like educate people on what we're doing, how we're doing it. And that's something I think we want to maybe expand on a little bit in the next season is how we're filming some of this stuff, like what we're doing, what our methods are. I think that would be really helpful for people who are into this kind of stuff.
Mm. As I say, we get that. I don't know if you want to say. I know it only lasts for seconds. I don't know if Sarah's got it. I just say, I mean, we've taken loads of photographs, you know, and if the people look at them and they've come back and said, you know, no, that's not, you know, it's not a spirit. It's the light or something. So, you know what? Fair enough, you know. But we did capture one bit of video, and I know obviously you've got a lot of experience in the filmmaking business and what have you. If we could show you it, I mean, you'll be able to see what we're talking about. Obviously, we value your opinion as well. It's not on for.
Right. I just think though, for any of it, it's unless you're actually there, it's hard to make an opinion on what it is. You know what I mean? Okay, let's take a look at this.
Is that the right clip? Yeah.
Oh wow. So that wasn't a person?
Nope.
No. You
Oh,
see
wow.
that's slowed down, but we do have it at normal speed.
Yeah, that's like episode 8 for us when we had, if you guys remember the train, because episode 8, just for the people watching, episode 8 of Haunted State, it's the journey. Like you get all the back information in the first 7, and then episode 8, it's amazing. And seeing that reminds me a little bit of what we have happen. And it's when it does happen, it's so exciting.
This is normal speed. It's very, very quick.
Okay. Yep. Oh yeah. Okay. I mean, it looks like a shoulder and an arm. That's what I see. So yeah, it's. I would want to see like kind of the rest of the room and the way everything's set up, but yeah, I definitely think it's definitely unknown, and things happen faster. Like sometimes, like when you're getting EVPs, they talk faster and like they move faster, and I don't know if space and time on that side for them is the same as it is for us, and that's something it's really deep. But that's something that I've just kind of determined through some of the evidence we've gotten is. Sometimes you won't make out what an EVP is, and then you slow it down. You're like, oh my God, I hear a word in there, you know? So I don't know if they're able to, if they're moving quicker, but we don't really have any science behind any of that. It's just basically based on our experiences, which is what most of this is for everyone else anyway, is it's based on their experiences. Obviously, if you've had experiences, you're a total believer. If you've had none and you see this stuff, you think we're full of crap. And that's really it right there.
Exactly. Well, that was on a live, and we do have the webcam footage to show the full room. Okay. And it was just Sarah and I that was in there. That was on a live. But as you say about time, my belief has always been that spirit doesn't have any, you know, sense of time.
I agree with that.
Physical. I
agree with that. And that's why when people talk about the witching hour, I kind of don't really. I'm on the fence on that one because of what you just said. I don't think they're looking at the watch going, oh, it's 3:00. I'm gonna screw with some people now. Like, I don't think it's that way. I think space and time on the other side is not what it is here. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards.
Mm-hmm. I've always been in the belief that you just have to there, Michael. You know, they don't look at their watch and say, well, you know, that's 7:00. It's getting dark, so we better head to the graveyard, kind of thing. You know,
you're exactly right. And the thing is, we're all going to find out one day. You know what I mean? We're all going to be there. So
that's it. That is, you know, we can. I mean, you get these people who say they're experts in the paranormal. They're experts, but to me, there's no such thing as an expert in the paranormal.
I agree.
You know, we can study it, but we're never going to know everything.
Yeah, I mean, like I think you're right. I think there's people who have done, you know, scholarly studies that can say, okay, we've done these studies and these are our findings. Like when Lloyd talked about, he had, and this is in the 1970s, they had a cassette tape that was still sealed in its cellophane, and they were in a room where they were getting EVPs, and somehow the EVPs ended up on the tape, and they didn't even unwrap it. So stuff like that, to me, it's intriguing. But yeah, to throw the title expert, It's a stretch. I agree. I think it's a stretch. Yep.
I think the watching is just when we are more sensitive, not necessarily when the most activity happens.
I mean, maybe because you're tired at that point. I don't know. I mean, people get to believe what they want to believe. I'm not going to argue with anybody. It's the witching hour everywhere at some point on the planet, right? Or somewhere rather, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence.
I'd say I'm kind of 50-50 on it as well, you know.
But what Andy says makes a good point.
It's a set time of day, then how does that get so you know,
you guys remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember the movie? Sorry. I hate that. There's a little bit of a lag. You guys ever see the movie Gremlins, the old movie Gremlins?
Yeah, many a time, yeah.
So you know what they say, don't feed them after midnight. So like, how does that work, right? It's like the same mindset of that is the same mindset I have for the witching hours. I'm like, so is it based on my geography? Like, I would probably say I'm on the side of the fence where I think it's bullshit. But I'm open to anything though, too. People that believe it, I'm not hating on you. I'm just saying I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that on a consistent basis that it's a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's the thing. We believe in the paranormal. You know, we don't shove it down people's throats, basically. But you know, we're open minded as well. I think it's to me it's a major thing. The paranormal. You need to be open minded. You need to look at every avenue possible before you put that label on it.
I agree with you. And for us is when we don't have an explanation, that's when we label it paranormal. And essentially to us, that means we don't know what this is. Like in the first episode, right out of the gate, we get that growl. We get those two growls where something's pissed off at us. And I have no idea what that is. Now, I didn't hear it when it happened. Everyone else did, but I didn't, because there was a lot going on around me where I couldn't hear, but it was over by them on the other side of the room. They heard it. So stuff like that. And that was during the witching hour. I think it was late. I don't know if it was quite 3 o'clock, but it was late. So I don't know. Whatever.
So you're the executive producer. How do you go about choosing your locations?
It's research. So I've kind of like through my 20s, and I'll try not to make this too long-winded of an answer, but like through my 20s.
Everybody carry on. We're here to listen. I'm just interested in, so you fire away, buddy.
I just have a habit of being long-winded, though, so I'm trying to work on that.
Me. I can
But like, so in my 20s, I would talk to people, meet women at bars or whatever, and there's one time I was just having this conversation with someone recently where I'm like, hey, you're a Sagittarius, and I don't know this person. And she's like, how do you know that? Or other things, like they just would come in my head and they'd be like, I know this thing. And I'd say it, and I might not have been spot on, but I would be close, right? So like, there's this thing inside of me that like, I don't have control over it, but like, I don't want to say I hear voices because it's not like that, but like, it's just a gut feeling, right? So I just trust that when I'm looking for locations, that thing that I have that Anne has also, like, I just trust that. So there's a couple locations that had never been documented as being, paranormal that we filmed at, like the Pabst Brewery in Milwaukee in one of our films. No one had ever filmed there that it was paranormal. And when we went there, obviously, for the people who've seen the movie, they know what we got. I don't want to give it away, but it was pretty significant. So yeah, I just trust my gut. I do research. I obviously look at places that, so we don't really film in people's houses. We film at places that people can go visit on their own, whether it's a restaurant or whatever. That's kind of one of my ground rules, but just places that I think would be cool to film at, and sometimes we go and we get nothing, and that's the risk you take sometimes, so.
Sam's got a good question for you.
Yeah, it's a good question, Sam. Thanks. Yeah, I do. Sometimes though, like the really hard part of this is to call a location and say, "Hey, can we film ghosts in your location?" Like working into that conversation is always really challenging, right? But I enjoy everything up to that conversation. Yes, that
Mhm.
conversation I never really enjoy it because you have to kind of massage it and talk about the history, right? Because it's true. When we talk about the history, we do a background on the locations that we film at and tell that story too, which I think is definitely important. Yeah, we do. We enjoy it. I enjoy it when they comp us, so like we get like a free meal or free drinks. That's my personal favorite.
Yeah,
So like here,
free gin.
yeah, but yeah, no, I enjoy it. It's fun, and I think season 2, when it actually gets produced, because of COVID, it's been really a tough go. We wanted to get season 2 out right away, but plus with the other projects I have coming up, it's gonna be difficult to get season 2 out quickly. But if you want quality, you gotta wait.
Yeah, that's true. Sarah's got a question for you about the gadgets you use.
Yes.
I'll just excuse me 2 seconds. I need a wee one's just jumped out of
Oh
bed.
yeah, I have a wee one too. I know.
Put her back down. I do apologise. I'll be back 2 minutes.
No problem.
So obviously, when you're out, you use a spirit box.
Yes.
So what type of spirit box is it? Because you seem to get really good, intelligent.
Yeah. I have it
responses.
right here, actually. By coincidence, I have it right here, and I can show you. I use the SP7 from ITC, right there. This one right here. It's old school. This thing is old school. I mean, these came out 2008, 2009, I think. And I know there's been a lot of radio devices that have come out, but like this one's my go-to. I really like this one. And then what I've noticed too is so it's got on the side, it's got the headphone jack, and then it's got the line out. Wait, I think it has a line out. Yeah, so it's got 2 lines. What we've done here, and I actually think I have it in here too, so if I can find it. So we had like this little crappy speaker, and I went out and got one of these, like the big JBLs, where you have to kind of, they're blocks, you have to kind of charge them, and they're good for like 4 or 5 hours. They get really loud. So if you get one of these, now first of all, do this at your own risk too, because you can open some doors with this stuff that you know you may be asking for some trouble. So that's kind of one disclaimer I want to put on all of this stuff is we have our own methods of when we're filming, how we communicate with whatever we're communicating with. And then when we're done, kind of like we basically say, okay, our session is ended. Please, our communication's over. Please do not communicate with us anymore. Really respectful thing. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes it will follow us home. But I've noticed with these devices, you know, you get a cord. So let's see. So you plug in out of this, and then there's the line in. Let's see here on the side, right there. So then you just crank this bad boy up, and then what we do is we actually have. I'll show you this. We use. It's a little expensive, but we use the Zoom H6. This thing right here. And then we record on this. So you see this in a lot of our shots, actually. This is a very, very, very high-end recorder, and it's got ports on the side for microphones. There's a lot of things you can do, but what we do is we connect the wire from this into here on the side, and then we just record it on the SD card. And it's amazing what you get. So I think having a loudspeaker, and even if you don't want to plug into this line, just from these XYs right here, these 2 microphones, it'll pick anything up in a room. So a lot of times we'll actually just use these and not go directly into that. But yeah, it's amazing. So the louder the speaker, the better, because there's some times where there's some really quiet voices that you won't get to hear unless you have that speaker really turned up. And I mean, I may criticize Ghost Adventures, but the one thing that they are really solid on is how they cover this while they're talking and asking their question. That's really important to do that. Unfortunately, sometimes you might miss something because of that, but the microphone's not going to pick both up. And that's the one complaint we do get with the show is that SP7's annoying. there's really nothing I can do about it. So I mean, it is what it is.
I've always liked it. It might sound nuts, but I've always liked I've always found it comfort the sound that comes off it. You know, when it's scanning. For
Right.
some, I know that might sound weird,
No.
but I could sit and listen to that sound over and over again for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually, so besides just having the voices come through, it's when, kind of like what you're saying, is when there's almost like a rhythm to it, right?
Mhm.
And when that changes, that's a thing for us too. That's kind of like a little bit of a red light for us too. We're like, hey, something's going on, because if it's just going at the same pace and all of a sudden it slows down or it speeds up or it gets quiet, we're like, what is that, right? So we make that kind of part of our evidence in a way, because then if something else is happening at that same time, there's definitely some more credibility, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So you obviously you're in Milwaukee, Barbie. You were saying earlier about the UK, coming over to the UK.
yeah.
About London. Is there any place in particular in London you'd like to investigate?
Well, not knowing the lay of the land, so to speak, the way that I know it here, I only know the really popular places. But Scotland Yard would be amazing, but I know that will probably never happen. I would be, you know, what I would do is I would defer to people who live there, and I would. That's kind of how I start my research. Is I would ask people, like, what places do you think? And you know, you have 10, 20, 30 conversations, and you kind of, where the people don't obviously hear that conversation, and you start seeing places will kind of rise to the top. That's probably what I would do. But I mean, well, I kind of want to defer to you guys. What places do you think are the go-to places?
In London, I've been to London quite a few times. In London, I would say the Tower,
Okay.
Hampton Court Palace,
Okay.
Highgate Cemetery, and Whitechapel as well. Obviously, Whitechapel, I was going to say being the home of Jack the Ripper, being the hunting ground of Jack the Ripper.
Yeah. I mean, for me, Scotland Yard, I just think there's so much history there.
Yeah.
And I would be shocked if there wasn't anything going on there. And then, like, I really want to kind of get into filming in more jails. Like, I don't know how that works though, because if there's inmates in there, I don't know how we could possibly film, because we're just probably not very safe to do that, you know. But that's something I want to get into more.
Another place in London that I would highly recommend, I don't know a lot of people do it, is you've got Tower Bridge, very famous tower. Underneath Tower Bridge, you know, it also runs alongside the river. The setup is you've got the Tower of London, and then there's a big a walkway takes you along the Thames to Tower Bridge. Down at the river itself, when you think the amount of people who have, you know, lost their lives down there,
Really?
I think that would be really, really active.
See, and we normally don't, and I don't want to spoil anything, so I have to be careful on what I say. But we normally don't film outdoors. Under extreme circumstances, we will make an exception. But that sounds like a place that I'd want to film. Just the noise contamination, like all the ambient noise, makes it really, really, really difficult to film, do an investigation outside. But I think it's probably worth a shot. You know what I mean?
A question for you from Just Chaos. Yeah, it's our friend in Alaska. Do you believe you can get voices in live feeds?
Yeah, you can get voices anywhere. I mean, it's just if you hear them or not, right? It's so when they say live feeds, do they mean this right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sure. I mean, anything's possible. Absolutely. Yeah, I do. I think you just have to be able to hear it, and it's right place, right time.
Well, we've been on a couple of feeds with Chaos. One night we were on a call with Messenger, and we picked up two individual voices on two separate separate occasions. Sorry, which was really interesting.
And then there was a live where the guy, a man voice had come through and finished the sentence before he had actually said it. Like we were talking about a plane or something.
It was about the plane that landed in the Hudson.
That's cool.
That's
I mean,
what it was.
what happened there isn't cool, but there the intelligence is really cool.
And Chaos had said something like, and the man never.
And they fired him.
And they fired him, and just before Chaos said fired him, a voice came through saying fired him.
I have a theory, and this is something that we talk about in our show, and that actually helps the theory. Sometimes the voices could be us doing that. We don't know it, how we're doing it. And that's one of the things Lloyd Auerbach, our parapsychologist, he actually talks about that. Is like a lot of times, like if I'm thinking something, like, okay, what color is my shirt? I'm thinking black, I hear black. Did I do that? Or did someone else do that? And that's the really cool part about all of this is we don't know. And that's why we keep doing it, you know? Because obviously when you find it, you're not going to find the answer. I just don't think you're ever going to find the answer. Unless, you know, the creator of the universe, whoever you believe it is, whatever your religion is, comes down and tells us this. I just don't know that we're ever going to know. And that's the part that I think is really fascinating about this is we don't know.
Well, indeed we don't, because there's a little girl as well we picked up in one of Chaos's live as well.
Oh, that's right. The wee girl said hi. She said hi to start with, but was really quiet, watching it back and slowing it right down and taking the audio away from the video and analysing it and stuff. The wee girl said hi, very, very quiet, and then a couple of seconds later, the wee girl came back through and said hi, but it was quite like you could really hear it.
Yeah.
John,
go ahead.
Sorry, Michael, carry on. I was going to say John M's got a wee bit of advice when you come to the UK. Once you come to Coventry.
Okay.
You say Coventry, I say Coventry.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to go back and watch this and screen shoot that. So thank you for that. Because eventually we'll make our way over there, and I think it'd be so much fun. But I think I'd have too much fun with all the pubs and I just love you guys. You guys are the greatest. Like you're our best friends over here. We love you. So I mean, every time I meet someone from the UK, like I instantly click with them. So I just think there's definitely is, I don't know. And I'm always worried about, because I mean, I try to be a good person, and I know how America is viewed in the world right now. And like, I don't agree with a lot of the things that we're doing as a government right now. So I think it's so cool when I meet people that aren't from here and they're really nice to me and we respect each other. Like, I just know, like, just from the experiences I've had here in the States, meeting people from the UK, like, I'm really excited to go there because you guys seem like you're so great. And you guys are singing all the time. And, you know, your arms around each other in the pubs. And, I mean, I'm all about it.
The pubs over here, you can get quite friendly with absolute strangers. You just walk into a bar and you sit and you end up talking to them for hours about absolute nonsense.
I'm all in. I want to do it.
What about Greyfriars? Have you ever fancied investigating Greyfriars?
Say where is that a location? See, now you got me. We talked about this off air.
Greyfriars Churchyard in Edinburgh.
Yeah, I'm actually not familiar with any of that. So
it's Greyfriars Churchyard. It's a graveyard that's it's got the reputation of being the most haunted graveyard in the world.
Wow. Well, see, so if you guys Google, go to the United States version of Google, and if you Google Kate Blood in Appleton, Wisconsin, because that's where I live right now, we have a very similar situation here in Appleton. We turned out we were able to debunk it, but there's a Riverside Cemetery, it's called, here in Appleton. Same thing here. It is super, super haunted, but unfortunately for us, we don't normally. I've done it one time. And I'm not knocking anyone who does it, but we won't film in graveyards. I just think it's disrespectful. But that's a personal thing for me. I'm not criticizing anyone else. Who someone else wants to do it, that's fine. But the one time I did go here to Riverside Cemetery, it was pretty crazy what we found. So I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. And the thing is, your history is bigger than ours. Because I mean, we weren't really a country until 1776, and your history goes way back. So I wouldn't be shocked at all to know that probably a lot of cemeteries there that are, you know, that have a lot going on. And I mean, the thing is, we'll see where the show goes. I mean, kind of right now with the show, financially, it's not the greatest situation. It looks great. I mean, you all get to view it, but we don't have the deal in place that we would like to have. So, I mean, if Amazon wants to stay with us, they can stay with us. If we move to Netflix or we move to another network, we're at this point right now, we're open to that. Right now, we have an independent situation, so I can take the show where I own the show. So right now, Amazon's doing a decent job distributing it, and that's part of the problem is, production costs and all that fun stuff, and then what we're getting compensated for the show. It used to be really good, and over the last 2 or 3 years, it's not been as good. So that's something that we're kind of looking at too, and that's why we opened up a Haunted State store where you can buy, you name it, like shirts and mugs. And I had a mug. Oh, it's gone. I had a mug up here earlier. I'll show it to you guys. But kind of the money part of the show is really the part where there's a little bit of a struggle right now. So we're either trying to secure what we have with Amazon right now or take the show to a different home and see if we can find the situation that helps us. And if that happens, who knows, maybe we could have an international version of Haunted State. That'd be really cool if we did.
That would be.
That would be.
You'd be one of my first phone calls.
Woo-hoo.
Oh, yeah. I'll pencil you in then. I'll pencil you in. But no, your show is, and I say I'm not buttering you up or anything, but I've said this to Sarah a few times. I don't think you'll have any problems finding a home for it. Whether it's Netflix, whatever, because it is a show that people can relate to.
I appreciate it. Recently, I don't know what happened, and I don't read the reviews. I focus on what I can control. And when you put yourself in a situation like this, where you're the showrunner, you're on the show as a cast member, you're gonna get criticized, and I understand that, and it's part of the deal, and it's fine. But there's a fine line between criticizing a show and crossing that line to where you're kind of, I don't know how to say this, but we're kind of just, you're rude, you're an asshole, like you're and that's the part for me that is a little frustrating, because as far as the ranking of the show goes, we were at like so out of 5, 1 to 5, we were like in a 4, which I thought was respectable. But something happened recently where we went down to a 2.9. So we noticed that when people love the show, they don't review it at all. They don't give us 5 stars. They don't say how great it is. But when they hate the show, they piss all over it. And they give us 1 star and they say how annoying I am or whatever. And so that's the one part of like working with Amazon. So it's a little frustrating is they don't really monitor those reviews. And like people could not even watch the show and still like leave us 1 star. So that part, like I take it with a grain of salt too, but that's the part that it's like for example, Ghost Adventures, they don't have to worry about that. They're on network. I don't know where they are by you, but here they're on cable TV. So they don't have to worry about any of that crap. Like if people want to watch it, they watch it. If they don't watch it, they don't watch it. And that's kind of where I want to get our show is if you don't want to watch it, then just don't watch it. Like it's that simple,
Exactly, buddy. I mean, Ghost Adventures, we're fortunate enough, we've got Patty Negri who follows us. She's their kind of resident medium. She does a lot of work with Ghost Adventures. So and she's been on a few times and she's back on a couple of times this week. She's meeting us and we've been invited over to Ireland to meet her in May as well, restrictions permitting. So, as you say about people, if they don't want to watch, you don't watch. Unfortunately, and especially in the paranormal thing, people like to criticise.
And the thing is, it's not about whether you believe in it or not. It's not about that. And a lot of the reviews are like that. And I saw that comment that just popped up, and I agree. Was his first name Andy? Did I see that right? Yeah, that was really well said, Andy. I agree. And that's the thing is, my other cast members will read it, and they may tell me, like when there's some good ones, they'll tell me, but I don't get too caught up in it. But and that's just a whole nother conversation too with the internet and just trolling and people being assholes. But we went from a 4 to a 2.9. So my whole point of babbling about this is if you are a fan of the show and you appreciate what we're doing, especially if you can go to the American version of Amazon, I don't know if that's possible, But please give us your love, because that will help us. So when we go and talk to Netflix, or we go and talk to someone else, or even we talk to Amazon and they see that, that will only help us get where we want to get. And because I think if the show had a little bit more of a cash infusion and a couple more people working behind the scenes, I think we could even take the show up another level to where it already is. It's got a very independent feeling to it, but like, and I would want to keep that, but I would want to expand a little bit on how quick we can turn these out. Because that's really the hard part. Is I've got a son, I've got a fiance, I'm planning a wedding. There's a lot going on. So obviously, if I have more people working on the show, then obviously we can get to where we want to get. Because I mean, I love the talking with people who are passionate about this. They're great people. I mean, they really are great, and they're open-minded, and I thoroughly enjoy it. And I want to thank all the people though that have been supportive. We see it, and we definitely appreciate it. Yourselves included. We appreciate it. It means so much, because when you see all this shit that's negative, and then you see someone who's respectful to you, it's like, thank you, thank you. So
there's Steve. He says he's being nosy. He's wondering the arcade machine you've got.
Oh my God. Yeah, I got this for Christmas. It's Golden Tee. You guys ever play that? I don't know if they have that. It's golf. It's really, really, really challenging. It's so when I get pissed off and I'm working here, I turn all my stuff off and I go play a couple holes of golf, and it calms me down. The other thing I want to get actually is I don't know if they have these in the UK, but those basketball machines where the timer goes backwards and you just start shooting them. I don't know if they have those by you, but I want to get one of those too.
Steve might be able to answer that. He's quite a gaming person and what have you, so he might be able to answer that one for you, Michael. But no, as I say, there is. I totally get you with the criticism and put you down.
Right,
you're doing well. You know,
thank you.
They tend to. Well, there's Andy K. Does the missus make you careful?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It does not.
Yeah. It's just the nature of the paranormal thing, you know. As I say, I mean, we're on a small channel. We've only been going 6 months,
sure.
And we've had a fair wee bit of trolling, and you know, kind of bad comments. Well, not bad comments, but stabbing comments, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's the thing I want people to realize. You can constructively criticize something. I think that's fair. But you have to realize that there's another person on the other end. And the golden rule, right? Treat people the way you want to be treated. So if there's something you don't like, that's cool. But when you're like, you know, Michael's stupid, I'm like, I can't fix that if you think I'm stupid. Sorry. I agree. That's part of the journey. And I mean, I'm as a filmmaker, I have 2 interns that work with me. And that's the number one thing I told them is you need to have thick skin. If you do not have thick skin, this is not the job for you. People are going to criticize you, but sometimes when they're criticizing you, they're trying to help you. You know, it's like your dad and your mom trying to say, okay, comb your hair, brush your teeth, like fix your shirt. They're trying to help you, right? They're not insulting you. So it also kind of depends on where the person is coming from too. I don't want to get off on that tangent, but that's just one part of the show that is really frustrating, because we have to fight that was the stigma that's out there about ghost shows to begin with. We have to kind of fight that whole like over the top drama queen type mentality, where our show, I don't think fits that. I don't think that's our show. So I think if you can, I always compare this to like food. When you go to a restaurant, you take one bite of something, you don't go, this is crap, get this out of here. You eat the whole thing, and then you decide if you enjoyed it or not, right? And that's kind of how I feel about our show is, watch it, get 5-6 episodes in, and then if you hate it, then fine, give us. I'm fair, you know what I mean? Like I know not everyone's gonna love what we do. Same thing with you guys. Not everyone's gonna love what you do. Like that's part of it, but that part that crosses the line is the part that really is frustrating for us. Definitely.
I'm a frame of mind. If somebody watches your show, or plays it or live, and they get in touch and say, well, I watched the show. I didn't really like it because I felt maybe you could do something a different way. Sometimes it can give you ideas. You say, well,
I agree.
Well, and then it makes you go and try that, and maybe that might work. So constructive criticism can.
I agree with you.
But then you get just the other ones who just want to take the knife out and put it in.
I think constructive criticism is all well and good if they're actually talking about the show, but the minute they cross that line and it becomes kind of aimed at you and becomes personal, that's when it gets totally.
Right. I agree with you. And that's, how we got to where we are now with the TV show is because of, and I'll even call it failure and a point. The first movie and the second movie is there were things that I wanted to do that I was not able to do. And you read some of those comments and so it's a journey as any type of artist, whether you're a filmmaker or, a singer or whatever, an artist where you draw, like you're gonna get that. And I understand that, but it's just something I don't get to talk about a lot. So I appreciate getting to talk about it. Because a lot of times you just keep it to yourself because you look like a little whiny bitch if you talk about it, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like a lot of people don't have that for their jobs, right? Like you don't have someone walking up to you off the street being like, oh, those papers that you filed are really crappy. Like most people don't have to deal with that. So just something I kind of wanted to mention, but I mean, we can get off this topic obviously, but I did want to ask you though, time-wise, how much more time do we have here? I'm just curious.
Say about 20 minutes, is that good for you?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
No, I mean, you're welcome to come on here. I think we all need to vent,
Yeah.
We all need to get to that point. I mean, to say we're just a small channel, and when we watch our first live to what we're at now, it's a big difference because we're all learning.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Even
with Ghost Hunter, when we done our first kind of investigations, we were constantly talking. But then we learned through time to talk less and listen more.
I agree. I totally agree with that. Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, there's no show, there's no anything that's perfect. Even the shows that we love, there still might be moments where you kind of roll your eyes at a character or something that they say or whatever. But yeah, I think it's fair. I mean, I think as long as you're engaging people and as long as you're fulfilling, because like for me, I feel like there's an obligation. Like I have an obligation, and the reason I call my company Hungry Lion Productions is like the Hungry Lion stands for like we're hungry for the truth, right? Like I'm a Leo, so that's where the lion came from. But like, so any project I'm a part of, I just feel like it's my job to tell the truth to the best that I can, no matter what the topic is. So that's kind of my obligation as a filmmaker. So I think as long as you're meeting that, like what your goal is for the show, if people like it, great. But if they don't, then obviously it might be time to maybe move on to something else if everyone's not liking it. But go ahead.
It's going to be hard to please 100% of people 100% of the time.
Exactly.
You can spend months on one episode. So you spend months on one 45-minute episode, and you think you've got it right down to perfection. You can guarantee there'll be somebody out there that will say, well,
right,
I didn't like it.
Yeah, that last episode, the finale episode, because the one thing about a documentary series is we have more of a challenge, I think, because a paranormal show, like every episode, like we'll use Ghost Adventures for an example, because they're kind of the big fish in the pond. There's every episode is a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's it. Next episode, beginning, a middle, end. Ours continues. There's a story weaved throughout ours. So essentially what we have when we're producing this is you guys know when you buy a puzzle and you dump out the pieces, you've got that box with the picture of what you're going to build. It's like just like that, except we have the puzzle pieces, but we don't have the picture. We have no idea. So you've got all these loose pieces that you're trying to tell the story, and the story starts to kind of come into focus as you start to tell it. So that's why the first two episodes, in my opinion, I mean, they're not awesome, but they're not terrible either. But once you get to episode 3 and then 4 and then 5, you start to kind of see where we're going with it. Because at the end of episode 2 is where we bring in that personal human angle that we're all going to lose someone that we love, right? Because I love when you watch a show and you get to the ending, like Stranger Things, you get to the ending of it, you're like, okay, I'm going to watch one more and I'm going to go to bed. And then you get to the ending, you're like, oh, next thing you know, it's 3 a.m. and, you know, so I wanted to have a paranormal show that had that element too. And I think, you know, it's really, really challenging. So kind of what you just said, that last episode we did, I'm working on them all kind of at the same time. But that last episode took 1.5 years.
Yeah.
It's a little over an hour. It took 1.5 years to kind of put it all together. So it takes a lot of time.
It does indeed. I mean, Sarah, you know, I come up with ideas for our videos and stuff, and Sarah, I'll be honest, I'm thick as stew when it comes to the tech stuff. Sarah does it all, but you know, I can give the ideas. But that's what I liked with your shows. You says, you know, you got a lot of shows and they'll get the same setup week in, week out. You know, they'll give you a brief history. The medium will do a walk round. They'll do an investigation, and then they'll give you a 2-minute conclusion. And then, you know, the next week, it's going to be the same format, just a different location.
It just gets a little boring to me, for me, as a viewer.
It gets stale after a while.
It does.
Your show tells a story.
Oh, no, it does. It does. I mean, there's a lot going on. I mean, we still have the beginning, middle, and the end, but there's something that kind of binds it all together, which I think is great. And then how we, because we wanted to construct, you know, how do shows do that, right? When you're watching Stranger Things and you're totally into the episode and you're like, okay, I got to go to bed after work tomorrow. And then you get to the end and you're like, oh, crap. Like, we studied that. We studied that thoroughly. And we were like, how can we tell these stories? So we put a ton of work into that. You know, most people will kind of binge our show in like 2 or 3 days, which I think is amazing that they're like that involved in the show. And honestly, like, it's a pinch me moment when people are like, oh my God, your show is my favorite show. And I'm like, wait, really? Like, it's cool, you know? So, I mean, the hard work definitely pays off. But telling that story takes a long time, which is why, kind of back to what I was saying before, is if we can either expand on what we have with Amazon or go somewhere else where they'll fully fund all of this, because I pay all this out of pocket. It's all funded by me, which it might look like I'm doing well behind me, but trust me, I'm not doing that well. So
it's expensive. I mean, you know, obviously your show's way beyond ours, but I mean, we're just a kind of small outfit. But you know, we've had to buy all bits and pieces from the ground up, and it is quite an expensive hobby.
It is. It's the time. It's the travel. It's producing it. It's like, so now I always tell people this. It's harder to edit too, because like if I just go out and shoot a documentary about, I don't know, I'm trying to think of guys jumping out of airplanes, we'll say, okay? I shoot all that footage and then I go back and I just edit it. With the Haunted State show, I can't do that. I'm looking for evidence too. So what I have to first do is watch all of it, you know, and if it's 6-7 hours of it, I have to watch all of it. Then I have to mark where I see that there's something, whether it's a shadow figure or EVP or whatever, I have to mark it. And then I have different color codes depending on what it is. Then I have to like figure out, okay, what's my story here, right? So it takes like 3 or 4 times the amount of time that it would to do something else. So that's the other part of it, is it's so time consuming that, you know, if I was billing out my time and getting compensated for that, okay, I'm fine with that now if Netflix is covering that, where right now that's not the case. So that's another part of the problem with when people are like, hey, come out with your next season. I'm like, well, hold on a minute here. Because I'm doing other things that are paying bills.
Yeah.
Where Haunted State isn't, until once the show's running, then I'm making money off of it. But until that moment, I'm not. So that's a little bit kind of peel behind the curtain. Most people, I actually have never shared that ever with anyone ever, but I think it's important to know that as a because I think it makes you appreciate the show more as a viewer, knowing like everything that is going into it, you know.
See, I've done a post. We've got a Facebook page as well, and like a few weeks ago, I've done a small post about what actually goes into, you know, even doing an investigation. A lot of people just see the same with ghost shows, you know, like same as yourselves. They see the sort of 40, 45-minute episode, and that's it. They don't see what's going on the other side of the coin.
Exactly
You know,
right.
The before it's all the research and the finding locations and contacting people.
Oh
And
my
then
god, it's
after
so
it, obviously, when you've got to sit for hours, and that's the bit that annoys me. Sit for
yeah,
hours,
yeah.
stare at the screen like this as if to say, right, is anything going to happen? Am I going to get something? And
Right. Exactly right. And then the liability, right? Because you don't want any of your cast to sue you if they get hurt. You don't want the location to get sued. You don't want them to sue you. You don't want to sue them. So there's all of that angle. And it's a lot of things people don't think about, right? Is the production of a show like this. I mean, it's a lot of work. And that's why our episodes are only a half hour. And in most cases, a couple of them go a little longer. The finale is an hour, but it's the thing is, it's all real. We could fake this and get it done in easily half the time, but like I want it to be authentic. It's like an organic ghost show, basically, when you think of it that way. Because like there's a lot of the popular shows, they're turning them out quickly, but they also have 25 people working on the show, where we only have 4. So, and honestly, I think our show matches up. I will match my paranormal show up with any of them. Honestly, any of them, and I think we can hold our own. I really do.
I totally, and again, I'll say it's not just because you're on, Michael. As I say, I have watched all your shows. That's why I got in touch with you. I would definitely agree with you because I've watched a lot of ghost shows in America and UK. And there is only 3. But you think I don't know how many. There's got to be dozens and dozens of them out there, and there's only 3 that I watch. And yours is one of them. And I would put you up against any day.
I mean, and that's the part where, like, okay, so the ego comes involved a little bit, where you see some of these shows, you're like, wait, that show's on network or that show's on cable, and mine isn't. But it's the thing is, so we did meet with Travel Channel in the United States. We did have a conversation with them, but what they were looking for is not what my show is. So like there was a little bit of a struggle on, okay, they're like, this is what we want. Can you do this? And I was like, no, that's not what we want to do. So it's like a shoe. It just has to fit, and I think we're fine with Amazon, but it's kind of like a soccer or football player for you guys. Maybe they get signed on their contract and it's low and they're not making a lot of money, but then all of a sudden they become a superstar. Now they want more money. It's kind of the same mindset with my show. Is like, I think the quality of the show, I haven't seen that. And I mean, I'm not trying to be full of myself, but I mean, I also haven't watched them all either. So the full disclosure, but of the ones that I have seen that are mainly, I'm talking about the cable shows here, and I'm not going to name them all, but like the ones that get high ratings that are on cable, I just can't watch them. I just think it's bless them, though. I know they're good people. They're all good individuals. They're good human beings, whatever. But it's just not for me.
Yeah. One thing you says there, and I think, you do a lot of respect for it. You need, you see these big companies maybe take you on and say, right, we want you to do it this way, we want you to do it that way. And it's not what your show's about. And I think you need to remain true because at the end of the day, it's your baby, and your Todd and Ann, it's your baby. Basically, you've created it. You put blood, sweat, and tears into it, and it's what you believe in.
I agree. That's it. I mean, and that's the thing is when you do that, and then people respond to it. It's the coolest thing that people enjoy what you're doing. Like that's any filmmaker's dream, definitely.
I think it speaks volumes for a person that, if a big company said, Hollywood comes along and say, we don't want you to do Haunted State, we want you to do Haunted State, but do it this way. I used to say, no, I'm not doing it that way because
I won't.
This is your show.
I won't do it. I won't. Yeah. I mean, if they take it as it is, I will do that. But, and I'm not criticizing them. They have their own thing they want to do, and that works for them, and great. I'm not criticizing any of that, but that's the really kind of like the behind the scenes explanation of kind of how all this works is a lot of people just, they get their popcorn, they sit down, they watch it, and they don't think about, nor should they have to, but they don't think about all the things that go into, getting there. And I mean, plus shooting night vision too. That's a challenge. That's a huge challenge. And then, so like, we're dealing with a lot of things that most filmmakers don't have to deal with is, the fact that we're editing, looking for evidence, night vision shooting, making sure, I mean, the audio is always a challenge. That's where did I put it away? That, I think I put it back. I don't even know where it went. I put it down somewhere here. Oh yeah, this thing right here. That's why this is huge, because now we do have, you can kind of see it behind me here, is we do have a boom mic, which we didn't get to use in episode or season 1. So now we have someone where we'll be able to have audio, but like, it's fun and I love doing the show, but it is a really big challenge. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but we do, I love your show. So you've got a new fan here as well.
We appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Well,
so Sarah, have you seen all of them yet or not yet?
I've seen
4.
No.
Oh, wait till you get to the ending. After you get to the ending, I want you to message me.
I will. But like I said off camera, it's a lot for me to sit and watch a paranormal show because I'll be honest, I get bored watching them. But last night, I sat and watched about 4 of your episodes, and that I just wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I definitely want you to message me though, because so many of the plot points, wouldn't call it those, call it that. It kind of all comes together in that last episode. And the thing is, most of the episodes aren't really scary, right? But the last one literally has every emotion you possibly can think of. So I'm really, really proud of that last episode. It's pretty amazing.
Just before we wind up, just one other thing that I noticed about the show is, as I say, a lot of ghost shows out there, etc., and a lot of them tend to hit on the demonic side.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, we actually have a rule when it comes to that. If we feel like we're in danger at any moment, we stop. If any individual, so like let's say Todd feels uncomfortable, we all agreed to stop filming, pack up our stuff, and get the hell out of there. That's it. Mm-hmm. So, and it's something, and it's funny you say that because it's something that we kind of get into that in that last episode, especially at the beginnings, because like the series starts with us. The series starts with us being done. Like we're done. There's like an interview. We're done. We've already filmed everything. And then we kind of come back to that interview in the last episode and we talk about something similar to what you just talked about, is like what actually scares us. Because we're not scared when we're filming. We don't have moments where we're scared. And we kind of want, for season 2, that's kind of the whole theme, is we want to push ourselves to maybe where we're putting ourselves in places where maybe we are a little more frightened, and I think you have to be careful on that though, because we don't know what we're dealing with. And, we have loved ones, and the stories that you hear, whether they're true or not, I don't know. But the stories you hear, the folklore you hear about demonic possessions and what demons do if they start to infiltrate your life and how they attack people you love or your animals or children that you love. Like, I don't want to find out if that's a thing or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we're really, really, really careful on that front.
So, and another thing is you don't, I don't recall any of them where you've sort of ran out the door screaming and throwing the handbags up in the air saying, I'm done, I'm off, where's the car kind of thing, but you see that a lot in these ghost shows. You'll hear a stone thrown, they all start screaming and they're poof out the door.
I mean, it's kind of funny, to be honest, when you see that, but I mean, there's a level of professionalism that we have to have, I think, with the show. And even when you are scared, you kind of keep it down. You keep it down low. You don't really show that, even if you are scared. Because I want to say, so in the movie, the first movie, Theater of Shadows, now the posters, but you can kind of see the bottom of the poster behind me in the corner there. There was one moment, there was one situation where I was really scared, and that was at the First Ward Schoolhouse. But I'll be honest, when I go back and watch that movie, I'm my own worst critic. I don't think the movie's the greatest. I really don't think it's that great, but it was my first movie, so it is what it is. But I was scared. Definitely was scared. when we filmed there, and I did have something follow me home, so a little dicey there for a few days.
That's how we'll wind it up there, buddy, for you. I'll just hang on to you for a wee minute or two after we come off, if that's all right, Michael.
Yeah, of course, sure.
Yeah, so thanks very much for coming in, buddy. It's been absolutely brilliant, absolutely fascinating. Thanks to everybody in the chat. We're back on tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, with it's a team live. We're doing Monarchs live. We're covering a few UK Monarchs back through the centuries. So that's at 9 o'clock tomorrow night. But thanks everybody for coming in tonight, and we hope you enjoyed listening to Michael.
Michael Brown, yeah.
So talk to you soon, everybody. Thank you, and stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.